How does my mafia husband protect me when I'm pregnant and accidentally wandering into active combat asking for my phone charger? Delilah Ainsworth had exactly 3 thoughts occupying her mind at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Her phone was at 4% battery. She desperately needed to pee again. And someone had definitely moved her charger from the nightstand. The fact that her husband Massimo Rossi was currently barking orders in rapid Italian to 6 armed men in tactical gear downstairs barely registered. Pregnancy brain was real, and at 7 months along, Delilah's brain had apparently decided that minor details like imminent danger were optional information. She shuffled out of the master bedroom in her oversized sleep shirt and fuzzy socks, one hand supporting her lower back, the other scrolling through her dying phone. The mansion's hallway lights flickered once, then twice. Weird. Maybe the storm outside was affecting the power. Downstairs, glass crashed. Someone shouted. Delilah frowned, pausing at the top of the grand staircase. Had Massimo invited people over? He usually told her about dinner parties. Delilah, get back in the room. Massimo's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding in a way that would have made her pay attention if she wasn't distracted by a text from her sister about baby name suggestions. Have you seen my charger? She called down, squinting into the dimly lit foyer below. Several men in black were crouched behind furniture. I think I left it in the kitchen. Or maybe the library. Did I go to the library today? A bullet punched through the decorative vase near the second-floor landing. Delilah blinked at the ceramic shards scattering across the floor. That was one of Massimo's aunt's gifts. He was going to be upset. Delilah! Massimo's roar was followed by the rapid percussion of gunfire. Safe room! Now! Right, she muttered, turning back toward the bedroom. Except wait, wasn't the safe room in the basement? Or was it behind the wine cellar? She'd only been shown once, and honestly, she'd been thinking about pepperoni pizza the entire tour. She changed direction, heading toward the stairs that led down. Her phone screen dimmed, battery life ticking down to 3%. This was a crisis. How was she supposed to look up whether pregnancy heartburn meant the baby would have lots of hair if her phone died? A man in a black mask appeared at the bottom of the basement stairs. He was holding a very large gun. Delilah stopped 3 steps from the bottom, tilting her head. Excuse me, have you seen a white iPhone charger? The long one, not the short cable, she asked politely. I'm pretty sure someone moved it. The man stared at her, his gun lowered slightly, confusion evident even behind the mask. Behind him, another crash echoed through the mansion. Massimo's voice cut through again, closer now, lethal and focused. Second floor clear. Enzo, West Wing. Luca, check the... Delilah, where? Are you? Basement, she called back helpfully. I'm asking about my charger. The masked man seemed to snap out of his shock. He raised his gun again. Delilah's eyes widened, not at the weapon, but at the white cord hanging from his tactical vest pocket. Is that my charger? She asked, pointing. Oh my God, you have it. 2 things happened simultaneously. Massimo Rossi appeared behind the masked man like a force of nature, and the man made the critical error of keeping his gun pointed at Delilah's direction for 1 second too long. Massimo moved with brutal efficiency. The gun clattered away. The masked man hit the floor with a sickening thud, and Delilah carefully descended the remaining stairs, reaching for the white cord tucked in the man's vest. Found it, she announced triumphantly, holding up the charger. Her phone buzzed. 2% now. Emergency mode. Massimo stood over the unconscious intruder, chest heaving, knuckles bloody, his tailored shirt torn at the shoulder. He looked at his wife with an expression somewhere between murderous rage and complete exhaustion. Delilah, he said slowly, his Italian accent thickening the way it always did when he was struggling not to explode. There are armed men. In our house, trying to kill us. She plugged her phone into a basement outlet, sighing with relief as the charging symbol appeared. Oh, is that what all the noise is about? Why didn't you just say so? Massimo closed his eyes, took a breath, opened them again. I did. Multiple times, in multiple languages. Huh. Delilah straightened, rubbing her belly as the baby kicked. Well, I'm getting mixed signals because this guy, she gestured to the unconscious man, had my charger, which means someone's been in our bedroom. That's super rude, Massimo. You need better security. Somewhere above them, gunfire erupted again. Massimo grabbed her hand, his grip firm but careful, always careful with her. We're having a very long conversation about situational awareness after I finish clearing the house. Can we have it after I pee? Delilah asked as he pulled her toward the actual safe room, which was, in fact, behind a false wine rack. Because I really, really need to pee. Hello, beautiful family. My daughter challenged me to hit 1,000 subscribers. So now you're all involved. Let's show her that nothing is impossible with a family behind you. Subscribe and comment below with where you're watching from. I want to know. Because seeing all your locations reminds me that stories connect us all, no matter the distance. Let's continue. The safe room was exactly what someone would expect from a mafia boss, with unlimited resources and a healthy dose of paranoia. Reinforced steel walls disguised as mahogany paneling, a ventilation system that could filter chemical agents, enough weapons to supply a small army, and absolutely zero bathroom facilities. Delilah discovered this last detail approximately 90 seconds after. Massimo sealed the door. Massimo. She knocked on the steel from the inside. Massimo, I wasn't joking about needing to pee. His voice came through the intercom, strained. Tesoro, there are 12 hostels still unaccounted for. You can hold it. Can I, though? Delilah looked around the safe room. Bottled water, emergency rations, medical supplies, ammunition, no toilet. Because biology suggests otherwise, this baby is literally sitting on my bladder like it's a throne. A burst of gunfire crackled through the speaker, followed by Massimo's clipped Italian cursing. She heard him bark orders to someone named Enzo. Then his attention returned to her. There's a bucket in the corner, behind the ammunition crates. Delilah stared at the intercom. You want me, 7 months pregnant, to pee in a bucket while you have 6 bathrooms in this mansion? I want you alive. Which requires you staying locked in that room until I neutralize the threat. His voice softened slightly, that particular tone he used when he was trying to be patient with her. Please, Amore, for once, just stay where I put you. She considered this. The safe room was actually quite comfortable aside from the bucket situation. There was even a mini fridge stocked with her favorite sparkling water and chocolate-covered strawberries. Massimo had thought of everything except the reality of pregnancy bladder. Fine, she agreed. But you're buying me something nice after this. I'll buy you anything you want if you just don't open that door. Relief flooded his voice. Delilah settled onto the leather sofa, propping her swollen feet on an ottoman. Her phone was still charging somewhere in the basement. She should probably be more concerned about the armed intruders, but honestly, this happened every few months. Rival families, territorial disputes, someone's cousin insulting someone else's mother. Mafia drama was exhausting and repetitive. She'd met Massimo 2 years ago at a completely normal coffee shop in Brooklyn. He'd been reading a newspaper. She'd been arguing with the barista about whether a vanilla latte could be considered breakfast. And somehow they'd ended up talking for 3 hours. He'd told her he was in import-export. She'd told him she was a freelance graphic designer who ate cereal for dinner and forgot appointments regularly. Their second date, he'd admitted the import-export thing was a gentle lie. Their 5th date, she'd watched him break a man's arm for disrespecting a waitress. Their 10th date, he'd asked her to marry him with a ring that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. She'd said yes because somehow, impossibly, Massimo Rossi made sense. He remembered everything she forgot. He kept her grounded when her scattered brain launched into 5 different projects simultaneously, and he looked at her like she was the only thing in the world worth protecting, which was romantic even if it occasionally involved being locked in reinforced rooms. The intercom crackled. 3rd floor clear. Enzo's team has the east wing secured. That's nice, honey, Delilah called out, examining her nails. How much longer? I'm getting bored. Bored? Massimo's voice pitched higher. Men are trying to kill us and you're bored? Well, there's only so many times I can reorganize the ammunition by caliber size. She'd actually done that. Twice. It gave her something to do with her hands. And I'm hungry. Did anyone check if the kitchen is clear? I really want those leftover meatballs from yesterday. A long silence stretched through the intercom. Then, Delilah, amore mio, light of my life, mother of my unborn child, please tell me you're not thinking about leaving the safe room for meatballs. Of course not, she said quickly, too quickly. Delilah, I'm just saying, if the kitchen happened to be clear. It's not clear. Nothing is clear. Stay put. Each word came out separately, precisely, like he was explaining particle physics to a golden retriever. Delilah sighed dramatically. The baby kicked hard against her ribs, as if agreeing with Massimo's paranoia. Fine. But when this is over, we're having a serious discussion about safe room amenities. At minimum, you need a bathroom and a snack bar. I'll install a full spa if you promise to actually use it next time. Instead of wandering into active combat zones asking for phone chargers, she grinned despite everything. Deal. Outside the safe room, footsteps thundered past. Someone shouted in Italian. Glass broke somewhere distant, and Delilah Ainsworth sat in her climate-controlled bunker, rubbing her belly and wondering if it was too late to order pizza delivery. Delilah lasted exactly 14 minutes before she remembered she'd left her pregnancy pillow in the living room. Not just any pregnancy pillow, the specific U-shaped monstrosity that was the only thing allowing her to sleep more than 2 consecutive hours. Her chiropractor had recommended it. Her doctor had endorsed it. Her sister had spent 40 minutes on the phone helping her choose the right firmness level, and it was currently on the living room couch, probably in the direct line of fire. She stood up, approached the safe room door, and studied the locking mechanism. Massimo had shown her how it worked once, explaining it was designed to lock from both sides in case of emergency. She'd been eating chips at the time and retained approximately 30% of the information. Her fingers hovered over the keypad. There was a code. 4 digits. She'd definitely been told the code. Was it their anniversary? No, that was 6 digits. Her birthday? The baby's due date? The last 4 digits of Massimo's phone number? She tried 0315. Nothing. She tried 1225. The lock beeped angrily. She tried 7777 because Massimo had mentioned once that 7 was a lucky number in Italian culture. And the door clicked open. Ha, Delilah whispered triumphantly. Still got it. The Narkens hallway outside was dimly lit and eerily quiet. She paused, listening. No gunfire, no shouting. Maybe everything was already clear and Massimo was just being overprotective, which honestly tracked with his entire personality. She shuffled down the corridor, one hand on the wall for balance, the other supporting her lower back. The mansion felt different in the semi-darkness, bigger, more shadowy. A window at the far end showed the storm still raging outside, rain lashing against the glass. The living room was 3 doors down. She could grab the pillow and be back in the safe room before Massimo even noticed. Simple, easy, practically responsible, considering proper sleep was crucial for fetal development. She turned the corner and nearly collided with a man she'd never seen before. He was tall, wearing expensive clothes now rumpled and dirty, with a gun hanging loosely in his right hand. Blood streaked his temple. His eyes widened when he saw her, then dropped immediately to her very pregnant belly. They stared at each other. I'm just getting my pillow, Delilah said, because apparently her brain had decided honesty was the best policy during home invasions. The man blinked. You're Massimo's wife? Delilah. She extended her hand automatically, then realized how absurd that was, and lowered it. And you're trying to kill us, I assume. No offense, but you guys picked a terrible night. I'm exhausted and my back is killing me. He didn't raise the gun. Instead, he glanced down the hallway nervously. You should get back to wherever you're hiding. Massimo's tearing through this place like a demon. I've lost 6 men already. 7, actually, Delilah corrected. There was 1 in the basement. Massimo got him pretty good. She tilted her head, studying him. You don't seem super committed to this whole murder thing, to be honest. Are you okay? The question appeared to break something in him. He laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. Am I okay, lady? I'm standing in a hallway talking to my target's pregnant wife about body count. Nothing about this is okay. Why are you here then? Delilah leaned against the wall, taking pressure off her feet. Like, what's the actual plan? Kill Massimo and take over his territory. Seems like a lot of work for questionable profit margins. He stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Do you not understand you're in danger right now? Oh, I understand conceptually, she said. But you're not pointing that gun at me, and honestly, you seem more stressed than threatening. Also, I've been dealing with pregnancy hormones for 7 months. Very little scares me anymore. Before he could respond, Massimo's voice cut through the mansion like a blade. "Delilah Marie Ainsworth, if you're not in that safe room right now, I swear to God." The man's head snapped toward the sound. Pure fear flashed across his face. "You opened the safe room door? Are you insane?" "I needed my pillow," Delilah said defensively. "Forget the pillow," he grabbed her arm, gently, surprisingly, and pushed her back toward the corridor she'd come from. "Go, now, before he finds you out here and kills both of us." "He wouldn't kill you for talking to me," Delilah said, even as he hustled her backward. "Yes, he absolutely would." The man checked over his shoulder frantically. "Your husband has already shot 3 of my men for being in the same room as you. One guy just looked at your photo on the mantel and got a knife through his shoulder." Delilah absorbed this information. "That seems excessive. That's Massimo Rossi." He released her arm once they reached the safe room entrance. "Please, for both our sakes, get back inside and lock the door." She studied him for another moment. This strange man who was supposed to be her enemy but was instead saving her from her own husband's wrath. "What's your name? Does it matter?" "I like to know who I'm talking to," he sighed. Garrett Hollis." "Well, Garrett, I appreciate you not shooting me." She stepped back into the safe room. "And if you survive tonight, maybe reconsider your career choices. The whole home invasion thing doesn't seem like it's working out great for you." She closed the door, punched in 7777, and heard the lock engage. Through the intercom, she heard Massimo roaring in Italian, footsteps pounding in her direction. Her pregnancy pillow was still in the living room, but somehow, Delilah had the feeling she'd just made the entire situation infinitely more complicated. Massimo found the safe room door locked, and Delilah inside, which should have been a relief except for one small problem. The security cameras had caught everything. "You opened the door." His voice through the intercom was dangerously quiet. "You opened the door, walked through an active combat zone, and had a conversation with one of the men trying to kill us." Delilah sat on the sofa, having decided the best defense was acting like nothing unusual had happened. "I was very polite about it." "Polite?" The volume spike made the speaker crackle. "Tesoro, this is not a neighborhood dispute about parking spaces. These are trained killers." Garrett seemed nice, though. Silence. Long, ominous silence. Then, "You got his name?" He introduced himself. It would have been rude not to ask. She picked at a loose thread on the sofa cushion. "Also, he helped me get back to the safe room. So technically, he's not great at the whole killer thing." Through the intercom, she heard Massimo taking deep breaths. His therapist had taught him breathing exercises for stress management. Delilah had suggested the therapist. She considered it one of her better contributions to their marriage. "Okay," Massimo said finally. "Okay. We're going to table this discussion until after I've secured the premises and possibly had several drinks. But Delilah, amore, I need you to understand something." His voice shifted, becoming softer but no less intense. "Every man in this house tonight came here with one purpose: to hurt me by taking you away. You and our baby are the only things that matter. Not territory, not money, not reputation. Just you." Delilah's hand moved to her belly instinctively. The baby kicked against her palm. "I know." "Then please stay in that room. I can't—" He broke off. "I can't focus on clearing the house if I'm terrified you're wandering around asking hostiles about their career goals." "That's fair," she admitted. "I'll stay put." "For real this time." "Thank you." Relief flooded his voice. "Give me 20 minutes. Enzo's team is sweeping the north wing now. We've got most of them contained." The intercom clicked off. Delilah settled back into the sofa, but her mind kept returning to Garrett Hollis. Something about the interaction felt wrong, not threatening, but off. He'd been scared, yes, but not of her. Of Massimo, definitely, but also scared for her, which didn't track with someone who'd broken into their home with lethal intent. She was still puzzling over it when the power died. Complete darkness swallowed the safe room. The ventilation system shut down with a dying whir. Even the intercom went silent, its steady background hum vanishing into nothing. Delilah sat very still, waiting for backup generators. Massimo had backup generators. He had backups for the backups. This was a man who planned for nuclear winters and zombie apocalypses. 10 seconds passed. 20. No lights. "Massimo," she called toward the intercom. No response. The system was dead. Her phone. She needed her phone. Except her phone was still charging in the basement, plugged into an outlet that now had no power. The baby kicked hard, as if sensing her sudden spike of anxiety. Delilah pressed her hand to the spot, taking slow breaths. Okay, this was fine. The safe room was designed for exactly this scenario. She had water, food, supplies. Massimo would get the generators running any minute now. The darkness felt heavier without the air system running. Warmer. Delilah stood carefully, hands outstretched, navigating by memory toward where she'd seen the emergency supplies. Her fingers found a crate, then another. There had to be a flashlight somewhere. That's when she heard it. A soft scraping sound outside the safe room door. Not Massimo. He would have called through the door, knocked, something. This was stealthy, deliberate. Someone was trying to get in. Delilah backed away from the door, her heart hammering. The locking mechanism was electronic. Without power, was it still secure? Massimo had explained the fail-safes, something about mechanical deadbolts engaging automatically during power loss. But she'd been distracted by a particularly interesting article about whether babies could taste what you ate in utero. The scraping continued. Metal on metal. They were working on the hinges. Her hands found the ammunition crates she'd organized earlier. Somewhere in this room was a weapon. Multiple weapons. She just had to find them in complete darkness, while 7 months pregnant and increasingly sure she was about to go into premature labor from stress. Massimo, she whispered into the darkness, knowing he couldn't hear her. Really bad time to go off-grid. The scraping stopped. The door handle rattled once, and Delilah Ainsworth realized that the safe room might not be quite as safe as advertised. Delilah's fingers closed around something cold and metallic in the darkness. A gun. Definitely a gun. She'd been around Massimo long enough to recognize the weight and shape, even if her actual firearms knowledge maxed out at pointy end toward bad guy. The door handle rattled again, more forcefully. "I have a weapon," she announced, hoping she sounded more confident than she felt. "And I'm pregnant and hormonal, which makes me unpredictable." The rattling stopped. A voice came through the door, female, which surprised her. "Mrs. Rossi, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to get you out before the entire electrical system comes back online." Delilah frowned in the darkness. "Why would I want to leave before the power comes back?" "Because when it does, the secondary security protocol activates. The one your husband installed last month." A pause. "The one that seals this room completely and floods it with sedative gas to neutralize any threat inside." Her blood went cold. "That's insane. Why would he install something that could knock me unconscious?" "He wouldn't. He didn't know you'd ever actually be inside during a lockdown. This room was designed for holding enemies, not protecting family." The woman's voice was calm, matter of fact. "You have maybe 3 minutes before the generators kick in. The gas won't kill you, but it's not exactly pregnancy safe either." Delilah's hand moved to her belly protectively. "How do you know about Massimo's security systems?" "Because I designed half of them. My name is Sienna Chen. I used to work for your husband before I made some questionable life choices that led to tonight." The door handle jiggled as she worked on something. "And before you ask, yes, I'm with the people trying to kill him. But I didn't sign up for gassing pregnant women, so we're in a moral gray area." This night kept getting weirder. Delilah stood there in the pitch darkness, gun heavy in her hands, trying to calculate whether trusting a home invader was better or worse than risking sedative gas exposure. "If you're lying," she started, "then I'm going through a lot of effort for no reason. I could have just walked away." Metal scraped against metal. "Look, I get it. Trust issues. Valid. But I've got about 90 seconds to get this door open before your husband's backup generators engage, and then we're both screwed." Delilah made a decision based entirely on instinct, and the fact that the baby was doing some kind of aggressive gymnastics routine against her ribcage. "Okay, get me out." Smart choice. Step back from the door. She moved backward, still gripping the gun. A sharp crack echoed through the room, then another. The door swung inward, and dim emergency lighting from the hallway spilled inside. Silhouetted in the doorway was a woman in tactical gear, holding tools Delilah couldn't identify. Sienna Chen was compact, efficient-looking, with short dark hair and eyes that assessed everything in rapid calculation. She glanced at the gun in Delilah's hands. Safety's still on. Delilah looked down at the weapon. I was going to figure that out. Sure you were. Sienna grabbed her arm. Come on, we've got maybe 60 seconds. They moved into the hallway just as the mansion's systems hummed back to life. Lights flickered on in sequence. The ventilation kicked in with a whoosh. And from inside the safe room, a soft hissing sound began. Delilah stared at the gas starting to seep from vents she'd never noticed. Oh my God, that would have… Yeah, Sienna pulled her further down the corridor. Like I said, questionable design choices. Your husband's great at security, terrible at considering edge cases. Where are we going? Delilah struggled to keep up, her pregnant waddle not exactly built for tactical extractions. Somewhere your husband won't shoot me immediately for touching you. Sienna checked around a corner, then guided them left. There's a parlor on the east side. Windows, multiple exits, decent sightlines. We can wait there until… She stopped abruptly. Delilah nearly crashed into her. Standing in the hallway ahead was Garrett Hollis, the man from earlier. But he wasn't alone. Next to him stood Massimo, and her husband's gun was pressed directly against Garrett's temple. Massimo's eyes found Delilah. Relief and fury warred across his face. Step away from my wife. Sienna raised her hands slowly. She was in the safe room. The gas protocol. I know about the protocol. Massimo's voice was ice. It's designed to activate when unauthorized persons breach the room, which means you triggered it by breaking in. The pieces clicked into place in Delilah's mind with horrible clarity. Wait, so the gas only happens if someone forces the door? Yes, Massimo said. And if I'd just stayed inside with the door locked, you would have been perfectly fine. The backup generators would have restored power and you could have walked out normally. His jaw clenched. But someone decided to rescue you, which activated the defense system. Delilah turned to Sienna. You didn't rescue me. You almost killed me. Sienna's expression flickered, genuine surprise, then dawning realization, then something that might have been guilt. The schematics showed. He changed the activation parameters. 3 months ago, Massimo confirmed, after I found out my wife has a pathological inability to follow safety protocols. The room's designed to protect her specifically now, not contain threats. His attention shifted to Garrett, gun still pressed against the man's head. Which brings me to my next question. Why is this one still breathing? Garrett looked like he was actively contemplating every life choice that had led to this moment. I helped her get back to the safe room earlier. I thought that might buy me some goodwill. It bought you 30 extra seconds of life. Congratulations. Massimo's finger moved toward the trigger. Wait, Delilah stepped forward, ignoring Sienna's restraining hand. Don't kill him. Tesoro, he broke into our home. I know, but he also didn't shoot me when he could have. And Sienna, she gestured to the woman, thought she was saving me, even if she was catastrophically wrong about the details. That has to count for something. Massimo looked at her like she'd suggested they adopt the intruders as pets. You want me to spare the people who tried to murder us because they were polite about it? I want you to find out why they're really here. Delilah moved closer, close enough to put her hand on his arm, the one not holding a gun to someone's head. Because something about this whole thing doesn't add up. Who sends a team to kill a mafia boss, but includes people who negotiate with the target's pregnant wife and design his security systems? Silence stretched through the hallway. Massimo's eyes moved from Delilah to Sienna to Garrett, calculation replacing rage. You have 2 minutes, he said finally, lowering the gun slightly. Explain why you're here, who sent you, and why I shouldn't eliminate all of you right now. Garrett and Sienna exchanged glances. Some unspoken communication passed between them. We weren't sent to kill you, Sienna said quietly. We were sent to kidnap your wife. Delilah felt the baby kick hard against her ribs, as if registering the same shock currently flooding through her system. Massimo's gun came back up, pressed harder against Garrett's temple. Keep talking, quickly. The parlor Sienna had mentioned became an impromptu interrogation room, with Delilah sitting in the most comfortable chair, while Massimo's remaining men secured Garrett and Sienna to dining chairs they'd dragged in. Enzo, Massimo's second-in-command, stood guard at the door with an assault rifle and a deeply disapproving expression. Delilah sipped water from a bottle someone had brought her, watching her husband pace like a caged predator. The other intruders had either been eliminated or captured. She'd stopped asking for specifics after the third explanation made her queasy. "Start from the beginning," Massimo said, his voice deceptively calm, "and understand that every lie shortens your lifespan considerably." Sienna spoke first, her tactical composure cracking slightly. 3 weeks ago, I was approached by someone claiming to represent the Costello family. They knew I'd worked on your security installations before you fired me. "I fired you because you were selling information to competitors," Massimo interrupted. "I was selling information to pay for my sister's medical bills, but semantics." Sienna shifted against her restraints. "They offered me $2 million to help plan an extraction. They said you were holding someone against their will, someone who needed rescue." Delilah set down her water bottle. "They told you Massimo was holding me prisoner? They showed me photos, you, walking around this mansion, alone, never leaving." Sienna's eyes met hers. "They said you'd been kidnapped, that your family was desperate to get you back. They made it sound like a rescue operation." "That's insane," Delilah said. "I'm not being held hostage. I'm just really pregnant and my favorite coffee place delivers." Garrett spoke up, his voice rough. "They told me the same story," said Massimo. "Rossi had abducted a civilian woman, gotten her pregnant to control her. They recruited specifically people who'd have moral objections to that scenario." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out we were the suckers." Massimo stopped pacing. "The Costello family hasn't made a move against my territory in 5 years. We have a treaty. Which is why this doesn't make sense," Enzo interjected from his position by the door. "Marco Costello's too smart to break treaty over a kidnapping play, and too cheap to offer $2 million per operative. Unless it's not actually the Costellos," Delilah said slowly. Everyone turned to look at her. What if someone's pretending to be them, using their name to recruit people who'd think twice about attacking you directly? Massimo's expression shifted, calculation replacing anger. "Who did you report to?" he asked Sienna. "A man named Thomas. Never got a last name. All communication was through encrypted channels." She hesitated. "But there was something weird. The last message I received before tonight included a secondary objective." "Which was?" "If extraction failed, we were supposed to eliminate you and make it look like your wife did it." Sienna's voice dropped. "They sent me detailed information about her psychological history, the postpartum anxiety she'd experienced during a previous pregnancy." "I've never been pregnant before," Delilah interrupted, her hand moving protectively to her belly. Silence crashed through the room. "The file said you'd lost a baby 2 years ago," Sienna continued carefully. "That you'd had a breakdown, that you blame Massimo for not being there when it happened. The whole narrative was designed to make it believable that you'd snap and kill him." Delilah's throat tightened. "None of that is true. We've only been married 18 months. This is my first pregnancy." Massimo moved to her side immediately, his hand finding her shoulder. His touch was gentle despite the violence still humming under his skin. "Who gave you this information?" "It was in the briefing packet, complete with medical records, police reports, psychiatric evaluations." Sienna looked genuinely shaken now. "If those are fake, then someone went through considerable effort to create an entire false history," Enzo finished. "That's not just identity theft. That's framework for a much bigger operation." Garrett cleared his throat. "There's something else. The team they assembled were all expendable. Ex-military with questionable records, freelancers with gambling debts, people who wouldn't be missed if this went wrong. They didn't recruit us to succeed. They recruited you to die here," Massimo said flatly. "To create a massacre that could be blamed on either Delilah's instability or the Costello family's aggression, depending on which narrative served them better." Delilah felt cold despite the room's comfortable temperature. "So we're not just dealing with people who want to kidnap me. We're dealing with people who want to start a war and frame me for murder, while eliminating me and destabilizing my territory in the process," Massimo added. His hand tightened on her shoulder. "This isn't about you or me specifically. This is about creating chaos." "But why?" Delilah looked up at her husband. "Who benefits from that?" Before anyone could answer, the lights died again. This time, it wasn't a system shutdown. This time, the windows exploded inward simultaneously, glass spraying across the parlor in deadly projectiles. Delilah felt Massimo throw himself over her, shielding her body with his as gunfire erupted from multiple directions. Someone screamed, maybe Sienna, maybe her. She couldn't tell over the percussion of automatic weapons fire. Enzo returned fire from the doorway, shouting orders in Italian. The chair Delilah had been sitting in splintered under bullet impacts. "East corridor," Massimo yelled, pulling her toward the door. "Move!" They ran, or rather, Massimo ran while half carrying her pregnant waddle sprint. Behind them, the gunfire intensified. She heard Enzo go down with a grunt of pain, heard Garrett shouting something about the north entrance. The hallway stretched endlessly. Delilah's legs burned, her lungs screaming for air that wouldn't come fast enough. The baby kicked frantically, responding to her adrenaline surge. Massimo pulled her around a corner just as bullets chewed through the wall where they'd been standing. "The panic room. Third door. Go." "What about you?" "I'm right behind you. Go," she ran. The third door was heavy steel disguised as wood. She slammed into it, fumbling with the handle. Behind her, Massimo turned, gun raised, firing at figures emerging from the smoke and darkness. The door opened. Delilah stumbled inside and felt something cold press against the back of her neck. "Hello, Delilah," a familiar voice said. "We've been waiting for you." She turned slowly, disbelief flooding through her system. Standing in the panic room, gun pointed steadily at her head, was her sister. Delilah stared at her sister Rebecca, trying to process the impossible image before her. Rebecca, who'd sent baby name suggestions 3 hours ago. Rebecca, who'd helped her choose the pregnancy pillow. Currently abandoned in the living room, Rebecca, who was now holding a gun with professional confidence that had never existed before tonight. "Becca?" Her voice came out small, confused. "What are you doing here?" "Preventing you from making the biggest mistake of your life." Rebecca's grip on the weapon didn't waver. "That baby you're carrying? It can't be born into this world, not into his world." Behind Delilah, in the hallway, Massimo's voice cut through the chaos. "Delilah, the door!" She stood frozen, hand still on the handle, her brain refusing to accept what her eyes were showing her. Rebecca's expression hardened. "Close it. Lock him out. Or I start shooting, and pregnancy doesn't make you bulletproof." "You wouldn't," Delilah started. "I absolutely would. I've done worse in the past 6 months than you could possibly imagine." Rebecca stepped closer. Close. The door. Delilah's hand moved automatically, pushing the steel door. It swung slowly, heavily. Through the narrowing gap, she saw Massimo turn, saw his face when he registered what was happening, saw the moment he understood betrayal was coming from inside, not outside. "Delilah, no!" The door sealed shut with a final devastating click. Silence crashed down. Rebecca exhaled slowly, lowering the gun slightly, but not completely. "Smart choice. What happened to you?" Delilah pressed her back against the door, one hand protectively over her belly. The baby had gone still, as if sensing the danger. "Becca, this isn't you. You're a kindergarten teacher. You cry during dog food commercials." "I was a kindergarten teacher." Rebecca moved to a control panel on the wall, typing rapidly. "Until I found out what my sister's husband actually does for a living. Until I discovered you'd married a monster." "Massimo isn't—" "He's killed 17 people in the past year alone," Rebecca interrupted. "I have documentation, names, families destroyed, children orphaned, and you're about to bring his baby into the world to continue that legacy." Delilah felt tears burning behind her eyes, but refused to let them fall. "How do you know any of that?" "Because I've been working with people who track men like him, who stop them." Rebecca's fingers flew across the keyboard. "The Costello story was cover. The extraction team was expendable. The real operation was always about getting you away from him long enough to make you understand." "Understand what?" Rebecca turned, and for the first time, Delilah saw genuine pain in her sister's eyes. "That you can't save him. That love doesn't redeem monsters. That baby," she gestured to Delilah's stomach, "deserves better than growing up in blood and violence. So your solution is to threaten me with a gun." Delilah pushed off the door, anger overriding fear. "To fake home invasions and create false psychological records? To manipulate people into dying in our hallway? Collateral damage." Rebecca's voice went cold. "Necessary sacrifices to break Massimo Rossi's power structure. They were people, Becca, with lives and families and—" Delilah stopped, Another realization hitting. The gas protocol. You knew about it. You told Sienna the wrong information on purpose. I told her what she needed to hear to get you out of that room. Rebecca turned back to the control panel. The sedative wouldn't have hurt the baby. I checked. But you needed to see that even his safety measures are prisons. Delilah's mind raced, connecting pieces. The power outages, the coordinated attacks. You're not trying to kidnap me. You're trying to turn me against him. I'm trying to save you. Rebecca's fingers stopped moving. In approximately 90 seconds, this entire mansion will be flooded with a nerve agent that's fatal to adults but harmless to fetuses. You'll wake up in a private medical facility. The baby will be delivered safely, and you'll have a chance at a normal life away from all this. Horror flooded through Delilah's system. You're going to kill everyone. I'm going to kill the monsters. Rebecca's hand hovered over a red button on the control panel. Massimo, his men, everyone who's enabled his empire. You and the baby will be the sole survivors. The traumatized widow who lost everything in a tragic attack. No. Delilah moved forward, her waddle becoming determined strides. Becca, you can't. I can and I will. Rebecca's gun came back up. Stay back. Or what? You'll shoot your pregnant sister? Delilah kept moving. You said yourself you're trying to save me. That doesn't work if I'm dead. I'll shoot your leg. You'll survive. But Rebecca's hand was shaking now. Delilah, please. Just let me do this. Let me free you. I don't need freeing. The words burst out, raw and honest. I'm not some brainwashed victim. I know exactly who Massimo is. I know what he's done. And yes, it's dark and complicated and sometimes terrifying. But I chose him. I choose him every day. Because you don't know better. Because I love him. Delilah was close enough now to see tears tracking down Rebecca's face. Because he remembers my doctor's appointments when I forget them. Because he holds me when pregnancy nightmares wake me up at 3 a.m. Because he's building a nursery with his own hands and reading parenting books in Italian when he thinks I'm asleep. That doesn't erase what he's done, Rebecca whispered. No, it doesn't, but it makes him human. Complicated. Real? Delilah reached out slowly, placing her hand over Rebecca's on the gun. And this? What you're doing? You're no different than the men you're trying to stop. You're just convinced your violence is righteous. Rebecca's composure cracked completely. Sobs shook her shoulders. I can't let you raise a baby in his world. I can't, Delilah. It'll destroy you both. Then help us change it. Delilah gently pushed the gun down, Rebecca offering no resistance now. Help us make it safer, better. But don't murder everyone in some misguided rescue mission that I never asked for. For a long moment, Rebecca just stood there, crying. Then her hand moved away from the control panel, away from the red button. I've done terrible things to get here. I know. People died because of my plan. I know. Massimo's going to kill me. Delilah took the gun from her sister's unresisting hands. Probably not. He's learned that murdering my family members creates awkward holiday dinners. Despite everything, Rebecca laughed. A broken, desperate sound. You're insane. I married into the mafia while knowing I'd probably forget where I parked during getaway situations. Insanity was established early on. Delilah moved to the control panel, studying the setup. Now tell me how to reverse whatever countdown you started, and then we're going to walk out there together and fix this mess. Rebecca wiped her eyes, sniffling. The nerve agent isn't real. I was bluffing. Delilah turned slowly. You were bluffing. I needed you to think the stakes were high enough that you'd choose the baby over him. But I couldn't actually kill you. You're my sister. Rebecca's laugh was slightly hysterical. I'm apparently terrible at this whole criminal mastermind thing. Yeah, Delilah agreed. You really are. She opened the panic room door to find Massimo on the other side, gun raised, covered in blood that probably wasn't his, and wearing an expression that could shatter steel. His eyes moved from Delilah to Rebecca. Give me one reason I shouldn't execute her right now. Delilah stepped between them, still holding Rebecca's gun. Because she's family, because she was wrong, but thought she was right. And because I'm asking you not to. She tried to kill you. She tried to save me. There's a difference, even if the execution was catastrophically stupid. Delilah met her husband's gaze steadily. Also, The nerve agent was fake. She was bluffing. So really, we just survived a very elaborate guilt trip. Massimo stared at Rebecca for a long, terrifying moment. Then he lowered his gun. Your sister lives, but she leaves, tonight. And if she ever comes near you or our child again— I know, Rebecca said quietly. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank my wife, who has a pathological need to save people who don't deserve it. Massimo held out his hand to Delilah. Come on, let's get you somewhere actually safe this time. Delilah took his hand, letting him pull her close. Behind them, Rebecca stood alone in the panic room, looking smaller and more lost than Delilah had ever seen her. I really was trying to help, Rebecca said softly. Delilah looked back at her sister. I know, but next time maybe just send a strongly worded text instead of orchestrating a home invasion. Deal. The mansion looked like a war zone, which technically it had been for the past 2 hours. Massimo guided Delilah through the wreckage. Overturned furniture, bullet holes decorating walls, shattered windows letting in the cold. Night air and rain. She tried not to look too closely at the bloodstains. Enzo was alive, currently being bandaged by one of Massimo's men in what used to be the dining room. He gave Delilah a weak thumbs up when he saw her. She returned it, grateful he'd survived despite the chaos she'd partially caused by leaving the safe room. Sienna and Garrett? She asked quietly. Alive, restrained in the wine cellar until I decide what to do with them. Massimo's arms stayed firmly around her waist, as if he was afraid she'd evaporate if he let go. They fought with us during the second wave. Garrett took a bullet meant for Enzo. So they're the good kind of home invaders? There's no good kind, Tesoro, but they're the marginally less terrible kind. He steered her toward the kitchen, which somehow remained mostly intact. Sit. You need food and water. The baby needs food and water. Delilah eased into a kitchen chair, her body finally registering the exhaustion and adrenaline crash. My sister tried to guilt-trip me into leaving you via fake terrorism. I noticed. Massimo pulled containers from the refrigerator, the leftover meatballs she'd wanted earlier. Bread, fruit, cheese. He assembled a plate with surprising domesticity for someone currently covered in tactical gear and other people's blood. Your family has concerning ideas about intervention strategies. In her defense, she thought she was saving me from a monster. Delilah accepted the plate, suddenly ravenous. You're not a monster, right? Just checking. He paused, meeting her eyes. I've done monstrous things. There's a difference. Good enough for me. She bit into a meatball, nearly moaning at how good it tasted. Pregnancy had made her relationship with food deeply emotional. What happens now? Now, I find out who actually orchestrated this. Massimo leaned against the counter, exhaustion finally showing through his controlled exterior. Rebecca was working with someone who knew enough about our security, our routines, our vulnerabilities to plan something this elaborate. She mentioned people who track men like you, organizations. Delilah ate another meatball, thinking, what if it's not rival families? What if it's something bigger? Federal? International? Possible. Massimo's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned, then showed her the screen. It was a message from an unknown number. The Rossi Mansion incident was a field test. Congratulations on surviving. You have 48 hours to liquidate your assets and disappear, or the next test will be significantly less survivable. Consider this professional courtesy. Delilah read it twice. That's not ominous at all. It's a threat disguised as advice. Massimo pocketed the phone. Someone's testing my defenses to see where the weaknesses are. Tonight was reconnaissance. Well, they definitely found weaknesses. Specifically, my inability to stay in safe rooms and my sister's dramatic streak. Delilah finished the meatballs and started on the cheese. So what's our move? Run away? Fight? Strongly worded response text. We end this. Massimo's voice went hard. I'm not running from shadows. And I'm not raising our child looking over my shoulder waiting for the next field test. Okay, but how do we end something when we don't know who's behind it? Before Massimo could answer, Rebecca appeared in the kitchen doorway, escorted by one of his men. She looked terrible, tear-stained, disheveled, guilt-ridden. I know who you're looking for. Massimo's hand moved toward his gun automatically. Delilah put her hand on his arm. Let her talk. Rebecca stepped forward slowly, hands visible and empty. The people I was working with, they call themselves the Equilibrium Initiative. They're not government. They're private contractors who believe in maintaining balance of power by eliminating anyone who gets too influential in organized crime. Vigilantes, Massimo said flatly. More like strategic destabilizers. They don't care about justice or morality. They just don't want any one family or organization getting powerful enough to threaten their own operations. Rebecca pulled out her phone with careful movements, showing them a contact list. I was recruited 6 months ago, told that taking down Massimo Rossi would save lives. I didn't know they had bigger plans until tonight. What bigger plans? Delilah asked. They're going after every major family simultaneously, using the same playbook. Recruit expendable teams, create internal conflicts, eliminate leadership, destabilize territories. Rebecca's voice shook. Tonight wasn't about you specifically. You're just the first domino. They're planning to collapse the entire East Coast power structure within the next week. Massimo went very still. That would create a power vacuum, chaos, which they'd fill with their own people, controlled chaos. Rebecca met his eyes. I didn't sign up for that. I thought I was stopping a criminal. Instead, I was helping start a coup. Delilah processed this information while eating bread and cheese, because apparently her brain worked better when fed. So we need to stop a shadowy organization from collapsing organized crime infrastructure, which sounds like a good thing, except they're actually worse than the current system. Significantly worse, Rebecca confirmed. They have no rules, no codes, no family loyalty, just profit and power. How do we find them? Massimo asked. Rebecca hesitated. I can get you into their communication network. They still think I'm loyal. I can feed them false information about tonight's outcome, buy you time to locate their operational center. And you're helping us why? Massimo's suspicion was evident. Guilty conscience. Because I almost killed my sister for people who were using me. Rebecca's voice broke. Because I want to fix what I broke. And because, she looked at Delilah. You were right. My violence wasn't any better than yours. Just more hypocritical. Delilah stood up, waddling over to her sister. You're an idiot. I know. A well-meaning idiot, but still an idiot. She pulled Rebecca into a hug, awkward around her pregnant belly. Help us stop these people, and maybe I'll consider forgiving you by the baby's first birthday. Rebecca hugged back carefully. Deal. Massimo watched this exchange with the expression of someone who'd married into a family of absolute lunatics, and was only now fully appreciating the implications. Fine, we work together, temporarily, but after this, he pointed at Rebecca, you disappear. Witness protection, new identity, somewhere far away from us. Agreed, Rebecca said. Good. Massimo pulled up contacts on his phone. I'm calling in every favor I have. Enzo, get Sienna and Garrett up here. If they design security systems, they can help us breach the initiative's defenses. They're going to help us? Delilah asked. They're going to help themselves avoid being dumped in the river by proving they're useful. Massimo was already dialing. Everyone who survived tonight gets one chance to make this right. After that, no more mercy. Delilah sat back down, exhaustion and adrenaline warring in her system. The baby kicked hard, as if reminding her that despite the chaos, life was continuing to grow and develop on schedule. Hey, she said to Massimo, who paused in his call. After we stop the shadow organization coup, can we please have one normal week? Maybe finish setting up the nursery? Argue about whether Vincenzo is too on the nose for a baby name? He crossed to her, cupped her face in his hands, and kissed her forehead. After this is over, I'm taking you somewhere safe, boring, and far away from anyone who wants to kill us. And we're not coming back until the baby's born, and I've verified that every possible threat has been neutralized. That sounds perfect? She leaned into his touch. Also, I found my charger, so the evening wasn't a complete disaster. Massimo laughed, actually laughed, despite everything. Only you would consider phone charging the success metric for a home invasion. Priorities, honey, priorities. He kissed her again, deeper this time, before returning to his phone calls. Around them, his men mobilized. Sienna and Garrett were brought up from the wine cellar, looking wary but willing. Rebecca pulled up encrypted channels on her laptop. Enzo directed people despite his injuries, because apparently Mafia second-in-commands didn't believe in concepts like rest or recovery time. and Delilah sat in the center of organized chaos, eating cheese and planning baby names, confident that somehow, improbably, they'd all survive this. They had to. She still needed to find that pregnancy pillow. 48 hours later, Delilah stood in a newly repaired living room, windows replaced, bullet holes patched, evidence of violence erased by Massimo's efficient cleaning crew, holding her recovered pregnancy, pillow and watching the sunset through pristine glass. The Equilibrium Initiative's operational center had been located in a corporate office building in Midtown Manhattan, disguised as a financial consulting firm. Massimo's combined forces, his own men, reluctant allies from 3 other families who'd been targeted, plus Sienna's technical expertise and Garrett's tactical knowledge, had dismantled the operation in under 6 hours. No casualties on their side. The initiative's leadership was currently enjoying federal custody after Massimo had made one phone call to a contact who owed him a favor. Turns out destabilizing organized crime was also destabilizing legitimate business interests, and certain government officials preferred the devil they knew. Rebecca had disappeared into witness protection 2 days ago. Before leaving, she'd hugged Delilah for a long time and whispered that she'd try to be better, to think before acting, to maybe find a therapist who specialized in vigilante-related trauma. Delilah had given her a list of baby name suggestions to take with her, just in case they ever reconciled enough for Rebecca to meet her niece or nephew. "You're thinking too loud," Massimo said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms carefully around her expanded waist. His hands settled on her belly, feeling the baby kick against his palms. "I can hear your brain working from across the room." "Just processing." She leaned back against him. "We survived a home invasion, stopped a criminal organization coup, and I found my charger. That's a productive week." Productive is one word for it. He rested his chin on her shoulder. "Terrifying is another. I aged approximately 15 years, watching you wander into combat zones asking about household items. In my defense, pregnancy brain is a documented medical phenomenon." She turned in his arms to face him. "Also, I helped. The whole Rebecca intel thing, that was crucial. You helped by nearly giving me a heart attack multiple times, yes." But he was smiling, that rare, soft expression he reserved only for her. "How are you feeling, really?" "Tired, swollen, craving meatballs again." She paused, considering. "Also weirdly proud? We took down a shadow organization while I was 7 months pregnant. That feels like it should go in a baby book somewhere." Month 7, Mommy helped dismantle a criminal conspiracy. Very traditional. Massimo's hands moved to her lower back, applying gentle pressure where she always ached. "The doctor cleared you. No complications from the stress. Baby's fine, heartbeat strong, currently practicing kickboxing against my internal organs." Delilah winced as a particularly strong kick hit her ribs. "I think we're raising a fighter. With you as a mother, that was inevitable." He guided her toward the couch, the one that had been replaced after the original became a casualty of war. "Sit. I made you something." "You made me something?" Delilah eased onto the ihart, cushions, curious. Massimo disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a tray containing her favorite foods: meatballs, fresh bread, fruit, and sparkling water with lemon. "You've been stress-eating cheese for 2 days. I thought variety might be good." He set the tray on her lap. "Also, I wanted to talk about something." Ominous opening, but she was already eating a meatball, so her concern was limited. Massimo sat beside her, uncharacteristically hesitant. "I've been thinking about what your sister said, about the world we're bringing this baby into." Delilah stopped chewing. "Massimo, let me finish." He took her hand. "She was wrong about a lot of things. Wrong about you being a victim, wrong about her methods, wrong about who I am fundamentally. But she wasn't wrong that my world is dangerous. I know that. I've always known that. I know you know. But I'm wondering if maybe we should make some changes." He squeezed her hand gently. "Not leave completely. I'm not built for suburban normalcy, and neither are you. But maybe reduce involvement. Focus more on legitimate businesses. Step back from the high-risk operations." Delilah set down the meatball, turning to face him fully. "You'd do that? For the baby?" "For both of you." His other hand moved to her belly. "I've spent my entire adult life building power and territory. But what's the point if I'm not here to watch this kid grow up? To teach them important things like how to properly intimidate contractors and which wine pairs with which pasta. Those are very important life skills, Delilah agreed, tears pricking her eyes. Damn pregnancy hormones. But I don't want you to give up who you are. I'm not. I'm evolving who I am. He kissed her forehead. Besides, Enzo's been wanting more responsibility, and Sienna's agreed to work for us exclusively. Legitimate security consulting. Garrett's taking a job training our defensive teams. We're building something different, safer. When did you arrange all this? While you were napping yesterday. I've been busy, he smiled. Also, I may have purchased a vacation property. Very remote, very secure, very boring. I thought we could spend the last few weeks before the baby comes there. Just us. No home invasions, no shadow organizations, just bad reality TV and midnight snack runs. Delilah wiped her eyes, laughing through happy tears. That sounds perfect. Will this place have multiple bathrooms? Because that's honestly my only requirement at this point. 6 bathrooms. I learned my lesson about safe room design deficiencies. You're the best mafia husband a forgetful pregnant woman could ask for. She kissed him, deep and meaningful, tasting like meatballs and promises of better futures. When they broke apart, Massimo rested his forehead against hers. No more wandering into active combat zones. I'll try my best. No promises, though. Pregnancy brain is unpredictable. I'll take it. He pulled her closer, careful of her belly. I love you, Delilah. Even when you're asking armed intruders about phone chargers. Especially then, she corrected. That's my signature move. 3 weeks later, in a secure private hospital with Massimo holding her hand, and Enzo stationed outside the delivery room with enough security to protect a head of state, Delilah gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Sophia, strong, classic, and according to Massimo, the name of a historical figure who'd survived multiple assassination attempts and still lived to 93. That's the energy we're going for, Delilah said groggily, holding her daughter for the first time while Massimo looked at both of them like they'd hung the moon and stars personally. Sophia had Massimo's dark hair and Delilah's nose and absolutely perfect tiny fingers that immediately wrapped around Delilah's thumb with surprising strength. She's already got a good grip, Massimo observed. Natural fighter. Or she just likes holding on to things, like her mother. Delilah smiled down at her daughter. Welcome to the weird, chaotic, occasionally dangerous, but ultimately loving family, baby girl. Try not to wander into any combat zones until you're at least 18. Sophia yawned, completely unbothered by her parents' criminal-adjacent lifestyle, and promptly fell asleep. And in that moment, holding her daughter while Massimo kept watch over both of them with the dedication of someone who'd literally cleared a mansion of enemies to protect them, Delilah felt completely, perfectly safe. Her phone was at 98% battery, her pregnancy pillow was in the hospital bag, and her family, unconventional, complicated, and absolutely hers, was finally complete. If you've made it this far in our crazy story, drop a comment letting me know what you thought. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button because I've got so many more wild tales coming your way. Where are you all watching from? I love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and maybe don't marry into the mafia unless you're really sure about it.